Welcome back. I'm still Matt Henderson. This is Thursday, October 30th, 2025. I am going to be filming today my next 4 episodes in the study of the book of Revelation. That will be episode or segment or whatever you want to call it, 5 through 8. So as I think I mentioned to you when I did the first 4, you will notice that my hair won't have grown between episodes because I'm filming them one after another, and my shirt will remain the same. But otherwise, I'm here to share with you a really fascinating book in the Bible, one that God provided us. And as you know, it contains multiple revelations from the book of Revelation. Now, when I've seen my first 3 segments. I haven't seen the 4th one because they occur on Friday evenings at 5:30. Today's Thursday. But when I saw them, I chastised myself for 2 things. I said, one, I'm talking too fast. And I have a bad habit all my life of talking too fast. And secondly, I felt I slurred some of my words, so I'm going to try to do better today. All right, we are going to start today with a little bit of recap. We're going to start today with chapter 8 of the book of Revelation. Recall, there are 22 chapters, and recall, if you would, that chapter 22, verses 18 and 19, out of 21 verses total, indicate that no one, including me today, should add to or take away from the book of Revelation. So I'm going to try my darndest to be sure I don't violate that rule, that admonition by God. Now let's go back and recap briefly part of what we looked at in the first 4 segments, and that was once again the first 7 chapters of the book of Revelation, and that took us from about 95 AD through the rapture, through the sealing of the 144,000 Jews. And I believe that when we start with chapter 8, we're going to start with the second half of the tribulation period. Now, someone thought that the first half of the tribulation was 3.5 years, and I'm not here to deny that. I don't know. Now, remember when the 6th seal was removed, 3 incredible events were disclosed. Now remember that the book of Revelation was sealed, and that it was sealed with 7 seals, and that it appears that the first 6 seals covered some information that God wanted to reveal to us, but in chronological order, so to speak. It didn't take 7 seals to seal the scroll of the book. 1 seal would have been enough, but God saw fit to employ 7 seals and to write not only inside the scroll, but also on the outside. So I think that's a little bit unique, perhaps. And you may recall that the removal of the 4 seals revealed the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, the rider on the white horse that I think is the Catholic Church, the rider on the red horse that I believe for sure is Islam, the rider on the black horse that I believe is the famine, the Dark Ages that occurred for maybe 12 or 1300 years. And then finally the pale horse, which is death and hell. You may recall that under the 5th seal was revealed the souls of those who are found under the altar, and we'll look at them some today, I think. And then the 6th seal was the most incredible seal, and it showed the strange heavenly events, the attention-getting heavenly events, the sealing of the 144,000 Jews, and then not the rapture, but the result of the rapture, and that is our souls being found in heaven from every nation, from all over the world. So that's kind of where we are now, and we are now at the removal of the 7th seal. And the 7th seal, unlike the first 6, doesn't hide anything, doesn't conceal anything, doesn't have anything for us to develop. In fact, it obviously had the purpose of keeping the scroll sealed, and it did a good job. So now we are looking at chapter 8, and there is a pause. There is a break in the action between the opening of the sixth seal and the three major events that are revealed, and the opening of the seventh seal and the opening of the scroll and the events that occur. Now, with the opening of the seventh seal in chapter 8, whereas we looked at before 95 AD through the rapture, we're now going to be looking at the second half of the tribulation period, which appears to be exactly 3.5 years. And we're going to be looking at the events that occur after that. So much of what we're going to look at in the next 15 chapters is going to deal with the terrible times that mankind, those who were left behind, those who did not leave Earth during the rapture, what they're going to experience. And it's really going to be tough. It's going to be terrible. But it's kind of God giving those left behind one more chance to make the right choice, one more chance to pick only Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. So it really is a neat part of the Bible, scary if you're left behind, but for those of you who aren't like me, then it won't be. Now, let me digress for a minute. I didn't plan on doing this early in my message, but let me ask you this, a rhetorical question. You know, if someone were to ask you, if God were to ask you, whether you're saved or not, whether your soul will spend eternity with Him initially in heaven and ultimately in the New Jerusalem, or hell, where the rich man in Luke chapter 16 found himself, you know, which would it be? I mean, could you say with absolute certainty and conviction that if you were to die, if I died today, before I finish this film series, that my soul will spend eternity in heaven with God? And I can say that. Yeah, I can say that. You know, in spite of the fact that I have been historically a rotten person, a poor husband, a poor dad, you know, I can say that because of grace and blood, my soul will not spend eternity in hell. And I want to know whether you can say that or not. Now, to reach the conclusion I have, I rely on this book right here. I have before me today the King James Version of the Bible, although I don't think it's required for salvation, as I tell my my independent Baptist friends and Free Will Baptist friends, it sure doesn't hurt. And when I was a kid growing up, whenever I had a Bible, and it was always the King James until the American Standard Version came along, maybe in the mid-50s, I'm not sure when, I always looked for 3 words on the front of the Bible. And I bought this Bible 6 months ago because I knew I was going to have some segments on Channel 16. And I wanted to have a fresh Bible where I could read the words. I mean, the other Bibles that I had, a half a dozen perhaps, NIV, King James, New King James, had so much highlighting and underlining at times I couldn't make out some of the words in there. So I bought me a new one. And when I look for a new one, I look for a King James, and I look for those 3 words on the cover. And it says, the Holy Bible. And in that context, holy means perfect. So I'm betting my eternity on the fact that this Bible is the inerrant, perfect Word from God. So, you know, in that is the Father and the Son. If you look at the Old Testament, it seems to me that it stands for predominantly 2 things. One, it tells us there's only one God. There's only one God. There are no other gods. That the God, our God that we love and worship, had no beginning. Never had a mom or a dad. Never evolved from anything. And will have no end. And created a universe that has no boundaries. A pretty awesome God. So I kind of look at the Old Testament basically as providing us with 2 extremely important bits of information. One, it's God and only God. No other gods. He's a jealous God. You don't worship objects. You don't worship people. You don't worship dead people. Buddha, Muhammad, Charles Darwin, any of the popes, Mother Mary. You don't, that doesn't count for anything. I mean, God alone created the universe and heaven. And the second thing I believe the Old Testament predominantly stands for is the fact that the Messiah is coming and only Jesus Christ is Lord. And I've accepted the fact that Jesus, as John 10:30 says, is the same as the Father. John 10:30, I and the Father are one. And I believe also in John chapter 1, verses 1 through 14, where we're told that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. If you look at John chapter 1, verse 14, you will see reference to the Word, and you will see the Word is undoubtedly Jesus. So the way I look at it, if you look at John chapter 1, verse 1, and substitute the word Jesus, the name Jesus, for the word Word, it'll come out this way. In the beginning was Jesus, and Jesus was with God, and Jesus was God. So how incredible is that? So in any event, I believe that. I believe that, and I hope you do too. You know, I'm reminded that in Matthew, and I'm not sure I can find it real quickly, but in Matthew chapter 7, we're told something that's really, really scary for people who are lukewarm, who are Laodicean Christians. And Laodicea is the seventh of the seven churches, and we covered it last week in the book of Revelation in chapter 3. But in Matthew 7:7, this is really scary. This should be scary for you and your family and your friends and anybody who isn't truly born again. You know, that's John 3:3 and John 3:5, being born of the water and born of the Spirit. You've got to be born again. You know, I tell people I'm no longer conformed to the ways of this world, but transformed by God's Holy Spirit in my life. But the scary part here, and 7's got a lot of scary stuff in it, but chapter 7 of the book of Matthew, beginning with verse 21, says this: Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father. Now, what's the will of God's Father? Well, it's to love the Lord your God, you know that, and love your neighbor as yourself. But he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, now this is the rapture day, this is the roll called up yonder day. This is Revelation chapter 20, verses 11 through 15. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works. And God said in response to those comments by people who apparently thought they were Christians, assumed they were Christians. They went to church occasionally. They read their Bible every once in a while. Maybe they read a chapter a day for a year, but who were not born again. And what Jesus said was, and then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Now, these aren't Buddhists who don't believe in Jesus. These aren't Muslims who don't believe. These aren't Jews who don't believe in Jesus. These are people just like you and me that thought that they had done enough to be saved and obviously hadn't. And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. So, my question, once again, rhetorical. You're not here to answer it for me. But, do you know for a fact that you're saved? There's some great salvation scripture. Romans 10:9 is one of my favorite. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Born again, the need to be born again, born of the water, born of the Spirit. But in any event, I ask you to re-examine your life and to decide today that you're going to make an irreversible commitment to accept only Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. Okay, let's look at chapter 8. Silence in heaven about the space of a half an hour. So there was a transition period. It's described as a half an hour. Was it literally a half an hour? Don't know. And I saw 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. So we got 7 angels with 7 trumpets. This is the beginning of the second half of the tribulation. Most of the second half of what we're looking at, most of the 2/3 that remains of the book of Revelation is going to deal with that 3.5-year period. But some is going to deal with other events. Remember that John was commissioned to write down what he saw. He could have seen a zillion things over the history of mankind. But God wanted him to see some of the stuff that had happened and would happen. And so, for all I know, God said, now, John, look over here, write this down. Look over here, write this down. But in any event, we're going to come upon a couple of really unique books in the Bible, chapters 10 and 12 of the book of Revelation. We should get to them. Well, we'll get to them sometime. And another angel came and stood at the altar. Now, remember, the only time that we've seen the altar mentioned in the book of Revelation is in chapter 5, I think. No, 6, where the 5th seal is removed and the souls of those people are found under the altar. And the altar is apparently near God's throne. He stood at the altar. So this angel is at the altar, not under the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he would offer it with the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar. Now all of a sudden the altar, which now through chapter 8 has been twice mentioned, has been promoted or described as the golden altar, which was before the throne. And as I said, we already knew that the altar of these souls, under which these souls were housed, was near the throne of God. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire. So initially, it apparently has a great aroma. You know, this is like a kind of a cooking pan, I think, with a handle on it. That's what I think a censer is. And in any event, it's offered with the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar, which is before the throne, and the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God. So that that's good. That's the aroma of something that smells good, something that's pleasing to God. Now look what happens next. Now remember, this other angel is standing at the altar. And remember, under the altar, we have the souls of those. But let me go back and read Revelation chapter 6, verse 9. And when he had opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and the testimony which they held, the testimony of Jesus. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge? I mean, they wanted vengeance. They wanted retribution. They wanted to get back at the people responsible for their apparently violent deaths. Dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto them, every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So in any event, they are somewhat placated. You know, take it easy. Take it easy. Settle down. So in any event, look what happens now in chapter 8, verse 5. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire. So now the incense is left. Same censer it looks like, and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and earthquake. And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound, to blow their horns. And the first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. Now this is kind of looks to me like the souls under the altar are receiving their reward, their retribution that they were looking for. They were cast upon the earth in the third part of the trees. So a third of the trees on the earth at this time. And remember this, I think the second half of the tribulation is clearly a 3.5-year period, no longer. And the third part of the sea became like blood. And a third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. But let me go back to verse 7, because I skipped over that. And they were cast upon the earth. So hail and fire mingled with blood was cast on the earth. A third of the trees died. All the green grass died. Now we're going to see later the grass is returned. And I'm wondering if that's why we had it die, because unlike trees, it could come back in a season. All the green grass was burned up, and the second angel sounded, as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. So, I mean, things are cranking up. And a third part of the ships were destroyed. And a third angel sounded. So now remember, 7 angels, 7 trumpets. This is the third one of the 7. There fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon a third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. And the fourth angel sounded. Now here we are. The fourth angel sounded. And the third part of the sun was smitten, and a third part of the moon, and a third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and all the day shone not a third part of it, and the night likewise. So, I mean, things are stepping up. And I beheld and heard an angel flying. Now, realize now that was the fourth angel. Okay, so we got three angels to go with trumpets. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of their voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. So what we're being told, what John is writing down is that of the seven angels with trumpets, the first four have come and gone. It was pretty bad, but stand by, it's getting ready to get a lot worse. Now, this is kind of interesting. This is chapter 9. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven into the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Now, I'm not sure what that is. The Bible refers to the bottomless pit, refers to an abyss. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, and the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts. We've been plagued by locusts, so far as I know, for eternity. You see on the news, it's very rarely shown, but you see that locusts in some places in Africa are swarmed so thick, it's kind of like trying to look through fog. And they eat everything green that's around. But these came out of the smoke, locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power as the scorpions of the earth have power. Now, scorpions, even though they look a little bit like lobsters or crawfish, they have a tail that will sting. And I've had minimal experience with scorpions, but when I spent 13 months in Vietnam, we knew, my men and I, when we were out in the field, that we probably had to take our boots off at night because they were always wet. And our feet were going to rot off if we spent the night with our boots on. So we would take our boots off, although have them such that you could get them on quickly if a need arose. And the first thing we did in the morning when we got ready to put our boots back on, we turned them upside down and tapped them to make sure that a scorpion hadn't found a home overnight, because supposedly if they stung you, you would be out of action for a day or longer. I don't know. Never saw one. My men never encountered one that I recall, but in any event, I know what scorpions are. And it commanded them that they should not hurt the grass. Now, you remember earlier I mentioned that the grass was destroyed, but now we're back with the grass in existence. It doesn't say green grass, but then it says neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. So, these locusts can wreak havoc on all of mankind except for the 144,000 who were sealed, who I believe are the Jews, the remnant. And to them it was given they should not kill them, so the locusts aren't to kill the people, but that they should be tormented 5 months. Remember, if the last half of the tribulation lasts 42 months, you got plenty of 5 months in there. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when it striketh a man. And in those days men shall seek death and shall not find it. So, people want to die. Remember the first half of the tribulation. Remember the first event in there was the stars fell from heaven onto earth. And people, and the rich men and all the people said, the mountains and rocks fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, from the wrath of the Lamb. So they wanted to hide during the first half of the tribulation when the unusual heavenly events occurred. But now they want to die. And shall not, this is chapter 9, verse 6, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Verse 7, and the shape of the locusts were like unto horses. So these locusts looked like, they were shaped like horses, prepared unto battle, and on their heads were, as it were, crowns like gold. Now, this hadn't happened yet. This is the second half of the tribulation, which is yet to come. And I don't know exactly what this is. I thought for ages it was Muslims mounted on horses with swords, because you may recall the rider on the red horse had a large sword, and its purpose was to take peace away from the earth. They had hair as the hair of women, and the teeth were as the teeth of lions, and they had breastplates, as it were, breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. Their tails had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. Now, we already knew that. 5 months of hurting them, but not killing them. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. One woe is past. So this means the fifth trumpeter has played, and that woe is past. And now we're getting ready to get to the sixth and seventh trumpet. You remember, we were forewarned that these last three were going to be very bad. Verse 13, and the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar. Now, we haven't heard about four horns before, but we know of the altar. That's where the souls are. We know it's been called a golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Now, remember, Euphrates is an old river. When I was a kid growing up, we all thought that civilization began with the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, maybe at their junction. This is the Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, and they prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay a third part of men. So they are preparing for a year, 12 months, and a month, 13 months, and a day, 24 hours, and another hour. So it looks like they were preparing for 13 months and 25 hours. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. Now that's 200 million. You know, that's a lot of people to get together. And that's why I thought that it could be Muslims who are out there being utilized for God's purpose to wreak havoc on the mankind that are left behind that aren't the 144,000. I heard the number of them, and I saw horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone, and heads of the horses, whereas the heads of lions. So they're horses. Okay, now we're about at the end of this segment, I think. So we're going to pick up here at the last part of 9, and we're going to go on to chapter 10, and it's awesome. Okay, thank you for being with me. I'm not quite sure, maybe I need to tread water a little bit longer, but we're almost at the end of this segment. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you. God bless your family, and God bless America.